you got to look at it and say, I sometimes have to be surrounded by other people that aren't going to be cheerleaders, but are also going to give me insight and perspective. But also, I got to know, why am I here? What's my purpose? What am I supposed to be doing? And what's even more important, Devon, and I talk about this a lot in the book, who are you robbing of that brilliance that you were uniquely qualified to do? That if you don't do it, someone isn't also going to be able to do something because they need to hear your story.
Guys, welcome to Keep On Pushing Stories, the podcast where we talk about resilience and grit and stick-to-itiveness, right? We share the real life, raw, unfiltered stories of those who have found a way to push past their perceived limitations and go achieve something amazing. And so today I'm excited to welcome my really good friend Marc Wolfe to the show. Marc, welcome to Keep On Pushing Stories.
Devon, I love it. I'm thrilled to be here with you.
Man, it's always great to catch up with you, man. And I'm glad you're able to spend some time with us here and Keep On Pushing Stories. Marc, we're always asking our guests, though. We're going to ask you. You're not going to be different. We will not treat you differently. Um, Tell us what it is that you do. How do you serve? How do you bring value to the lives of others?
Devon, it's just like when we met. I just listen to people and what they tell me about what they're doing, either in business or outside of work. And I always think about how it can be improved, right? I do that through executive coaching. I do it through advisory work, and I do it through my new book, Yeah, But. So I'm always looking at improvement in business because we each have a purpose. We each have something to do. But how about if we do it with more impact and we do it on a broader scale?
Indeed. Sounds quite noble, which is amazing. So if someone wanted to find you, they needed some executive coaching, or
Mhm.
perhaps, they've been struggling with decisions, and your book, yeah, but could help. How will they find you?
Well, luckily the internet does a great job. So you would type in, yeah, but that's but with one T. If you type in two T's, you're on your own. But it's yeah, but and Marc Wolfe, MarcWolfe. Or you find me at marcawolfe.com. And I'm out there with the podcast, with the book, but lots of free resources to help people because it's not always about a transaction, it's about an interaction.
Again, noble purpose. I love that, man. Not about a transaction, it's an interaction. I think, sums it up perfectly how, the things that you do to make a difference and serve other people. So, tell us then, Marc. I'm really interested in knowing this. We want to hear your Keep On Pushing story. We'd love to hear of a time in your life when you had to push past a challenge or step out of your comfort zone, pivot, whatever it is. You had to make a shift in order to move your purpose forward. So, please do share.
Well, thanks for that. I had to think because there's a lot of times where I've gotten my butt kicked. Everything from getting kicked out of school at
And
9 years
that
old.
but is with two T's, I assume.
Yes. That butt is with two T's, correct. Yeah, but I thought of one specifically that I struggled with because I kind of had limited beliefs. So it was writing my book. I'm a speaker. I know how to communicate verbally. I can read body language. I can interact, but the written word is so much more difficult in my mind because have you ever misinterpreted a text or an email? But imagine writing 40,000 words and making sure it comes across in a way that is going to be interpreted, no matter who reads it, that they're going to be able to understand what you're trying to get across. That to me was one of the things I had to push through in a way where I was like, how am I possibly going to do this? And how is this going to be even remotely successful? And, Devon, it's when you think about having to write a book, and so many people have, it takes a team, but it also takes a mindset. You really have to go and be like, why am I doing this? And I resisted for 14 years. Like I literally said, there's no reason. I could die with a book in me. I didn't feel like I needed to. Just like I don't feel like I need to climb Mount Everest. I'm okay. We'll be good. And or ever be on a bobsled. Thank you, Devon, for doing that for me because I'm never going to want to be on a bobsled. Appreciate that for you. But there's certain things you're supposed to do. And I knew that it would have an impact in a way that if I didn't do it, I'd be robbing other people of some of the things and the insights that I had. And that's why I wrote the book.
Indeed. So you grappled with this limited belief for 14 years.
Mm-hmm.
Well, back up because by virtue of the fact that you are a speaker, you are a writer. You have to write your speeches. Let's start there, and you send texts and so on and so forth. Where do you think that limiting belief came from?
Well, it came from a little plastic tube a long, long time ago. And that plastic tube was a red pen that my grade school teacher used to create word murder. And I used to hand in a report, and it would be so much red, you wouldn't see the blue that I wrote because I wasn't the best grammarian when it came to the written words. So that lived with me forever, that red pen. And I still thought, well, if a teacher whose job it was to educate me thought my grammar wasn't well manufactured, then
Mhm.
even though my words are good and I may not use the perfect ones, people are more judgmental when you write a book because people that read have a different attitude than people that listen. Right? We listen all the time. People talk all the time. You're not checking them for typos when they speak, I hope, but when you're reading a book. So that stopped me. And I was like, okay, well, I feel like I can undermine my whole career if I wrote a book and it misrepresented me and made me look like that teacher thought I was in grade school.
Yeah. That speaks though to not just limiting belief, but this interesting thing called fear, that dreaded F word,
Mhm.
because I know you know this, that if and when you wrote your book, and you have, congratulations, that there are other people there who are going to edit it, and
Mhm.
you're going to bounce ideas, back and forth with each other to help make the message as clear as possible.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
you knew that, but that stopped you nonetheless.
Yeah. So let me tell you about my journey. So I knew that fundamentally, and I'm not the first person. There's 8.2 billion people in the world. I'm not the first person to write a book, but it's the first book for me. So what did I do? I'm like, I love technology. I was like, I know how to speak. I'm gonna go and transcribe my book. And this was like 5 years ago that I started, even though I resisted. So I used some software and it transcribed it. And I was like, oh, this is great. I can just get it. So I had 15 chapters pretty much written as just words that came out of my mouth. And then I was like, let me go look for an editor. Let's just see what I have here. Okay. Well, some were like, so this is not fully baked. I was like, well, these are my ideas. We have to turn them into, take my word vomit and turn it into something that's brilliant, right?
Mhm.
And they're like, well, you need a developmental editor, you need this, you need that. And I was like, okay, this is getting way more complex. And again, I didn't want it to make money. I wanted to be out there. So, long story bearable, what I did is I found somebody who believed in what I was doing. I found somebody who was in the UK, right? And was going to go and be like, and I interviewed 6 editors. One was somebody who edited the Titanic. And I was like, for James Cameron, I was like, oh, how did we get here? She liked the book, but she was also at a level that I was like not ready to be at.
Mhm.
I found somebody who was like, I'm going to work with you through this whole process. And I said, are you 100% sure? Because as much as I write poorly, I'm really have high expectations that this has to come out way better than you can even imagine. And she was like, I'm all in. And that's what started the journey, was taking that and not removing the essence of how I speak, but literally have it so it is my words in my way. It's not supposed to be a grammar book, and there is no typos, but it is expressing the way I speak.
Good. And so you found this editor who, in a way, was the opposite of the teacher with the red, blue plastic tube.
Yes, I found somebody who was not going to judge me. And I'm I'm from New Jersey originally, Devin. You know, the Northeasterners, we're able to take criticism. And she goes, well, when I tell you stuff, are you going to be okay with it? I said, yeah, you're telling me about something I'm doing for the first time, which is writing a book. I expect you to help me see things differently and me to be corrected and changes to be made. And because I was not going through a large publishing agency who wanted to control it, I actually had control of the words. And I'll tell you, the process over 18 months till from first idea of when I submitted it to when it got done wasn't actually horrible. It was actually a lot better and actually helped me overcome like 7 of my yeah buts that of the 15 that were in the book.
Oh, so it's an autobiography.
Well, I mean, people don't know, right? So we're talking about what is the yeah buts that are in the book, right? We hear yeah but. So what is Mark talking about? Well, it's about 15 yeah buts that I heard over my professional career. Yeah, but I don't have time. Yeah, but what's the plan? Yeah, but what are people going to say? Yeah, but not where I'm from. Yeah, but I'm too old or too young. And these are all yeah buts. And instead of it being my story in each yeah but, I use stories like by people like Axl Rose and why he produced the most expensive album. This guy, Devon Harris, and how he overcame yeah buts. There's other people that have overcome yeah buts. And I wanted it to be about people that they knew and people they didn't know and how they overcame yeah buts. And that's the cool part, Devon. You could know mentally what you should be doing, but the difference between mentally and emotionally and acting it out and actually doing that, that's the part you and I both try help people do is get over their own fears of why they shouldn't do something. Because on the other side of that, that's where the magic happens. Always.
Indeed. So, you created Yeah But the book, and I hear you telling us though that you had a huge Yeah But that started, that formulated itself in the relationship with a teacher who loved her red ink. That left you traumatized. And I'm kind of curious, think about the number of people, metaphorically speaking, who have
Mhm.
had that kind of a similar experience. And that has stopped them dead in their tracks. And they've gone to the grave with their version of a yearbook book inside of them.
Yeah.
You got past that yearbook. What's the biggest lesson or lessons? What are the biggest lessons you took away from that?
If you're gonna, and you're right, actually, I hear so many stories of either parents or school teachers in the most formidable years saying something, maybe just once, and it's stopping somebody for a lifetime. And it is disappointing. And sometimes, as a parent, you say some things that weren't intended to be dismissive, but someone took it that way. Here's the thing: you can't control what people are going to say to you. And when you're young, you really don't even know you're taking information in. You can't even push back, really. There's going to be things in your life that people are going to say, even as adults, they're going to say, sometimes intentionally to cut you down because they're competitive, or sometimes just because they don't know better. It's up to you what you do with that information. Because a chapter in a book is what are people going to say? And people are going to say you're crazy for doing things that literally change your life for the better because they're putting their limiting beliefs on you. They're like, well, because I can't do it, you shouldn't do it. I was like, don't should all over me with
Mhm.
what I should not do or should do. You got to look at it and say, I sometimes have to be surrounded by other people that aren't going to be cheerleaders, but are also going to give me insight and perspective. But also, I got to know, why am I here? What's my purpose? What am I supposed to be doing? And what's even more important, Devin, and I talk about this a lot in the book, who are you robbing of that brilliance that you were uniquely qualified to do? That if you don't do it, someone isn't also going to be able to do something because they need to hear your story.
You say why and who, and I want to start with who because I think the first who is now who are you robbing, as in the persons outside of you, but the one you see in the mirror,
Mm-hmm.
and you're absolutely right. You may have, people in your life who, um, I don't want to use the word mean, but who say unkind things to you, one,
Mm-hmm.
because you're competitive or they're vindictive,
Mm-hmm.
or they don't know better. Maybe,
Mhm. Mhm.
like you say, and I think oftentimes that is the truth, they are transposing their limiting beliefs on you. Nobody has ever done this before. I can't do it. I don't believe I can do it. Why do you think you can do it? And
Yep.
so to get stuck in that, yeah, I hear
Mhm.
you, it is robbing yourself of who you could become.
Mhm.
And by extension, the people you can now inspire with your butt.
Mhm. Yes.
And then figuring out, like, as you just said earlier, your why.
So, Devin, you and I could do the exact same thing. Let's say we're both having a speech at a keynote. You're gonna, and we're gonna talk about the exact same topic. You're gonna reach different people than I am because of your backstory, right? I never came from Jamaica. I didn't grow up in the hood. I didn't. The thing is that your story, even with the same essence of what we're doing, is gonna reach different people. So if you don't do it, those people that you were supposed to reach aren't going to get to hear that and then come up and talk to you and relate to you in a way or hear something that affects them. That's the thing. It's like, I'm not here saying you're going to be something that you're not, which you weren't supposed to be. I like to use assessments. I like to have conversations. I like to help people understand who they are. And if you do know what you're supposed to lean into and it makes you uncomfortable, that's why I like the term yeah, but because you say yes as if you want to do it. And then you make excuses or you let other people make excuses about it for you. That's the part. It's a no is a no, but a yeah, but is a maybe I should. I'm like, yeah. What would it look like?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. So you didn't grow up in Jamaica, you didn't grow up in the hood. Yeah. So like you had a really rough childhood. But look how you turned out, man. And it says because you're absolutely right. Um you created this narrative in your mind that the
Mhm.
but isn't a stop.
Mm-mm.
It's
It's
not
not.
it's not a roadblock, but finding a way to get past those limiting beliefs in your head. What I guess one last nugget that you like to share with us.
Yeah, it's one of the most important things is that when you start to lean into that discomfort, like I did with my book, or when I've owned my own business since I was 16, and that's what I've done my whole life is owning my own business. That's uncomfortable for somebody. They can't imagine getting on a stage or coaching somebody that literally makes tens of millions of dollars and asks you for advice and things. So, and then somebody who has a small business and asks you for advice, right? So there's all these things. How are you going to do all that, right?
Mm,
I believe I have a God-given talent to be able to listen deeper and to be able to hear something, but that's me. But I don't ask you to do what I do. What I'm saying is that understand what you do. And even in our book, when I give away the fear chapter for free, I give that away for people to understand, even for free, do something and think about it. But you got to do something moving forward than being stuck and regretting and having regret it in the rest of your life. There's certain points, birthdays, certain ages that end in a 0 or a 5. People start to reflect on what they could have done. How about we get past the but and we go to no more yeah buts and we actually start being able to do that? That is already happening. There's people writing books because they read my book. There are people that have actually started businesses. All this happened because a guy from New Jersey that get kicked out of school, that got red marks on his paper, is literally affecting people's lives because I did what I was supposed to that I was afraid of.
yeah. As just you spoke about giving away that chapter for free, it just hit me that it might be free, but it's still very valuable.
Mhm.
And you have shown us through um, your life experiences, Mark, that yeah, you may get negative feedback from people. Yeah, you may have really horrible experiences, traumatizing experiences, you know, just be plain unlucky. But there doesn't have to be a but. There is within all of us a capacity to rise beyond and above our particular circumstances. Thank you so much. I mean, for sharing with us. You definitely epitomize the keep on pushing spirit. Thanks much.
Thank you, Devon. Thank you for what you do.
Indeed. Thank you. So guys, if you found this valuable, if you enjoyed it, don't forget to drop a like and a share. But more importantly, yes, I said share it with those who you think might be able to benefit from this episode. Until we connect next time, you know what to do. Keep on pushing.